Hi YepCoders! Today we're gonna show you one of the most interesting features that we have included in YepCode in the last weeks. YepCode Forms. As you know, YepCode allows you to perform integrations and automations in a very simple way between an infinite number of services. However, one of the most outstanding and useful aspects of our platform is to be able to extend functionalities of other SaaS products. And the new functionality called YepCode Forms helps a lot with this. What we have built is a mechanism to allow using the input form of a YepCode process, that is, what is shown to the user when an execution is going to be started, so that this form can be embedded in any type of application or web page. To do this, you simply make use of an SDK that we have published in JavaScript, and then embed dips with the name of your team, the name of your process, callback functions to process the output or error handling. All this allows you to embed those forms, and when you submit them, it will trigger an execution of the YepCode process that will have all the code implemented for everything you want to do. Go to a database, retrieve information, REST or GraphQL invocations, or whatever you are interested in. It is a mechanism to trigger executions which can be complemented with the webhooks that are already supported, and also with the scheduling system to schedule executions of YepCode processes. We are going to see a specific case of the use of the YepCode Forms within other platforms. To do so, we will make use of one of the most interesting SaaS in the database market right now. We are talking about Tinybird, which provides a database in a serverless environment and has a very simple information ingestion and query through API REST. We are users of the platform, so we are going to log into it. Tinybird has sources of information on which you can then create some pipes to filter that information. The first step is to get information from your systems to the Tinybird database. To do so, the tool provides you with several import mechanisms through Kafka queues or the remote import of CSV files. They also have integrations for uploading files and for connecting to a Snowflake that they have documented here with a CLI for how all this importing will be done. So, what we are going to see with this YepCode Forms case would be how a new information ingest system would be incorporated into Tinybird, but without modifying the core of its product at all. On the home page of the Tinybird dashboard, we have embedded a YepCode form, and here you can see it. This is not something that is in production in Tinybird, but we have manipulated it ourselves using a Chrome extension to embed JavaScript code. But it will take any Tinybird developer 2 minutes to embed this form. And what does this form do? It is going to allow to choose a type of database, a MySQL, a PostgreSQL, or a ClickHouse, which are the 3 that we have supported up to this moment, and it will ask you for a host. We are going to make a test. There we have a test database. The port where this database is located will be this one. We put the user and also the password. We must indicate which query we want to execute against this MySQL to export the results and take them to this Tinybird. Here we have all the tables that exist. Let's take it for example from AirportDB, the flight table. We put here a select asterisk for AirportDB flight. And we have to give now the name to our data source in Tinybird. And as we don't have a data source named like that, we tell it to create it. Then, when you press submit, this will be triggering the execution of this YepCode process, and let's see how the result of this import appears. We can see here our new data source, which has almost 500,000 rows. The process has been very agile thanks to the fact that Tinybird imports the data very fast, and also that the YepCode process mechanism that has done this import uses a streaming approach without loading the data in memory. We can see how this import process will be. Here we have the JSON that defines the input form, which is the same that we are seeing embedded in Tinybird. Through the option to enable forms of this process, we can see an example of what this import looks like. In other words, here we see that form embedded inside a YepCode web, and what we have done is to embed it inside the dashboard panel of Tinybird. We could make another case, for example with PostgreSQL, so same thing. We have here the PostgreSQL server, and the port where we have this PostgreSQL will be that. The user in this case is YepCode. We can make a mistake on purpose and see what would happen. And the table we are going to query may be, for example, this ticket flights, which already has more records. It will be in the YepCode database and in bookings. We come here and write it. And we tell it to call this data source ticket flights. We have put user wrong, so if we run this, we see that it fails and has given us the execution error. If we correct it and run it again, we will get another error. In the execution that failed, the data source had already been created, and it tells us that it already existed at Tinybird, and that we should use it with the append mode. We execute this new load with append. Here we see the result of the load. And if you go to ticket flights, we can see that we have already loaded 1 million records, and also with a fairly fast execution. With all of this, we have described how YepCode Forms allow to extend functionalities of a SaaS. As we have seen, we have not touched all the core of the Tinybird product, and this is an important advantage in terms of productivity. We simply used their API REST, and also with other YepCode integrations, we went to that Postgres, that ClickHouse, and that MySQL, and they could easily make that extension. Thanks for watching, and happy coding!